Today is going to be a great show. By the way, no, I'm not Chris Abeyta. Mickey O'Neill sitting in again. Seems like Chris is always out playing. Doug, is he ever coming back?
Absolutely.
Absolutely coming back. Well, we'll be looking for him. Here's the question for you. Are you still listening to all the weight loss hype? Did you know most of it's basically from the 1960s? The science of obesity and weight loss has progressed in leaps and bounds, and finally someone's here to explain it to you. Dr. Sandeep Grewal, co-author of Fat Me Not, that's Fat Me Not, simplifies everything for you. You'll even learn the secret switch built into all of our bodies and how you can flip that switch to make your weight self-regulated. Self-regulated, wouldn't that be fun?
That would be awesome. Mickey, as a young man, I was very involved in athletics and worked extremely hard to be in top physical condition. Didn't really have to worry about too much in terms of what I ate as a younger man, and frankly struggled to keep on weight because of the tremendous calorie load that was put on my body for many years in the activities that I was involved in. But now that I'm in my early 60s, I find that it's a little more challenging to stay fit, and so I'm excited to hear what Dr. Grewal shares with us today, because I know that many of our listeners that have come and visited with us are in my basic situation. My wife jokingly refers to it as chest of drawers disease. She says my chest fell into my drawers. So
that's cold. That's cold. But it's everywhere. I like this make your weight self-regulated part. And we're just about to get to Dr. Sandeep Grewal, who's going to explain all of that to us. But I want to make sure if you're listening to the show and if you have time for the second half of the show, I want you to know we've got big things planned. We have an article to look at about the fact that America's 401k experience and experiment is just kind of a crashing failure. Maybe not for you, but across the board, and what you can do about it if it is a failure for you, and what you can do about it if you're concerned that it may become a failure for you. Following that, we're going to be looking at the 4 major risks of retirement, which include market crash risk, withdrawal rate risk, sequence of return risk, and how about this for something new? Compound inflation risk. That's all coming up right after the bottom of the hour. But right now, we've got Dr. Sandeep Grewal. He's a board certified by the American Board of Internal Medicine. He was awarded the Innovation in Healthcare Award by the Charlotte Business Journal in 2012, and he was also named 40 Under 40 for 2013. He's appeared on several TV and radio shows, authored 3 books, and is the co-inventor of a revolutionary step portion control weight loss method, the Slim Plate system. So welcome to the show, Dr. Sandeep Grewal.
Well, thank you for having me on the show.
Oh, it's great having you. Now, just to kind of dive right in, according to your book, it turns out that, can this be right? Bacteria in your gut have some impact or might even control your weight?
Yes, this is what we are knowing from the latest research on weight loss, which is happening at this time. We are finding out that we have trillions of bacteria in our stomach and intestines, and we thought till today these bacteria are just sitting there, but they are not just sitting. They are actively engaged in our body to change our cravings, to try to get the food they want to live on. How they found out was with a very interesting research. What they did was they took what we call is a DIO rats, which are diet obese rats. They basically feed the rats and make them obese. And then they did gastric bypass surgery on these rats. So what they found, these rats lost weight. Then they took a second set of obese rats, and they took just the bacteria from the stomach of the first group of rat which went through the surgery, and then they put it into the rat which did not go through the surgery. And what they found was that the second group of rat, even though they did not undergo gastric bypass surgery, lost weight too. And that's how they know that these bacteria are actually regulating and hacking into our nervous system and changing our weight.
So it's a proven thing then. Most of us think of the bacteria in our gut as either the good bacteria or the bad bacteria, but it seems like there must be a lot more personality there. Doug?
What do we do to control that volume of bacteria or possibly the type of bacteria, Dr. Grewal?
Yeah, so what happens is, and that is what we call the switch we have in our body. So you see there are people who eat everything and they still seem to keep their weight down. And then there are people who don't eat much, but they start getting obese very fast. So we have two groups of bacteria in our stomach. One is the bad bacteria, as you said. This bad bacteria, what it does is it thrives on processed food. It thrives on sugar. It thrives on all kind of bad food and high-calorie food. Not only that, it has ability to extract more calories from that food. So when we are eating high-sugar food, when we are eating processed food, these bad bacteria come into us. And then these bacteria send in neurotransmitters to our brain, hack our brain, and make us crave that bad food. So we are stuck in a cycle of craving that bad food. So what we need to do is we need to go on a high-protein diet, high-fiber diet, and limited carb, not low carb, but limited carb diet, and that would help us try to get the good bacteria. The good news is once the good bacteria start settling in our stomach and intestines, it's going to trigger good cravings, craving for good food, and it would be much easier for us to hold on to that good diet.
Joining us today is Dr. Sandeep Grewal, author of the book Fat Me Not, and he's explaining how we can flip a switch in our own bodies to make our weight self-regulating. Doug?
Dr. Grewal, I know that there have been times when I've overeaten, so I decided to just skip a meal the next time to try to make up the difference. Is that a good approach?
Well, here's the thing, that skipping a meal is never a good approach. When we look into the research, and the reason we did was because a lot of patients come to us, they eat only once a day, or they skip breakfast, or they skip their meals, but they are not losing weight. So when we looked into the research, what happens when you skip a meal? When you skip a meal, your metabolic rate can drop from anywhere between 30 to 60%. People who skip breakfast, the metabolic rate goes down instantly. And people who just eat once a day, their metabolic rate can drop by 60%. That means if you are eating 500 calories, that's going to hit you like 1,000 calories just because your metabolic rate is down. So it is very important not to skip meals.
But a metabolic rate, it seems like you're born with a metabolic rate. Is that accurate, or is there something you can do about it?
No, we can actually control our metabolic rate. There are several ways to control metabolic rate, and I'll give you 5 of them. Number 1, you got to eat regularly in controlled portions, at least 3 to 4 times a day, and we recommend it 5 times a day. That is breakfast, lunch, dinner, and 2 snacks in between. When you eat 5 times a day, what you are doing is you are doing the gut workout, which means your gut system is working out to digest that food, and that by itself increases your metabolic rate. Number 2, you got to drink a lot of water. Just drinking good amount of water will increase your metabolic rate by 30%. Number 3, build muscles. When you build muscles, your metabolic rate increases. Number 4, eat natural food, not processed food. Don't eat protein powder or shakes. Eat steak. When you eat a natural food, it goes into your stomach. Your stomach has to do a great workout on it, and that helps with the digestion and increases the calorie consumption and increases metabolic rate. And number 5, make sure your thyroid hormone level is normal. Make sure, get your doctor to check it, because if your thyroid hormone level is low, you are going to gain weight because this is a metabolic hormone.
Fascinating stuff.
That's pretty amazing. So, in your opinion, if we follow these 5 steps, would you say that's kind of the easiest way to lose weight and try to keep it off?
Yes, because once our metabolic rate is high, what we are doing is we are eating good food in a regular way, and we are consuming those calories as we go along. So we are able to eat the foods we like to eat, and yet able to consume the calories and not letting them gain weight.
Dr. Grewal, I know there's a listener out there, they're thinking they have intense cravings for the wrong kind of things. What can you tell them to help them with those cravings?
Well, I'm glad you brought that question up. So there was another research done on rats in which they gave rat a sugary soda. They noticed that when you give a rat a sugary soda, it ate more in the first 2 hours. When they gave this rat sugary soda every single day, the rat showed uncontrolled eating behavior. And you can try it at home. If you drink a sugary soda early in the morning, the rest of the day you are going to crave all kind of sugary food. So we need to be very careful of what we are eating, because it's not just the calorie we are getting it from it, but it is also modifying our eating behavior. What I call is food hypnosis. Our food is hypnotizing us.
Food hypnosis. That's fascinating. We're going to pick it up when we come back, and we're going to talk about how to improve your willpower. This is Accelerated Wealth with Chris Abeyta and Doug Berkey, only on AM 740 KVOR.
Let's go back to Doug Berkey and Chris Abeyta for more about your financial future with Accelerated Wealth.
AM 740 KVOR, you're listening to Accelerated Wealth with Chris Abeyta and Doug Berkey. Chris Abeyta's taking a little break. I'm Mickey O'Neill, sitting in for him. And I want to remind you, you can shoot your questions to us, questions about money and retirement, right here at the station by emailing us at money@kvor.com. If you want to get more personal, call at the office, 466-5634. Also a reminder, we're going to talk about the crashing failure of the 401k system, a little article that came out from CNBC, and then the 4 risks of retirement coming up right after the bottom of the hour. But for now, back to Dr. Sandeep Grewal. We're talking about how to make your body regulate your weight effortlessly for you. I'm sure there's a little bit of effort up front. And we were coming back to this issue of willpower because, you know, I don't have any problem at all with willpower, Doug. I don't know about you. It's the won't power that I have so much trouble with. Like, I won't eat that. I won't drink that soda or whatever like that. Dr. Grewal, help us out. What can we do?
Yes, so we have to kind of understand the concept of our food hypnotizing us, which basically means that what we are eating is not just giving us calories, it is also modifying our eating behavior for next few hours to next few days. They gave the rats a mixture of fat and sugar, which is basically cookies and cakes that we eat. And what they found out, when the rat ate the mixture of fat and sugar, which is cookies or cakes, the rat ate most of his calories of the day within the next 2 hours. So bottom line, if you're on a good diet and you're maintaining it, then you go to a party and then you see a big piece of cake and you say, okay, I'm just going to eat that big piece of cake just today. Not only you get calories from that cake, you also change your eating behavior and your willpower is gone.
That's amazing. And you said a word there, by the way, that earlier, right at the very beginning of the show, you talked about switching to a high-protein, high-fiber, minimal or not no carb, but
limit portion-controlled carb.
Limit portion-controlled carb. But the word you left out there was fat, and you just mentioned fat and sugar together here. Do you want to try to eliminate fat? What's up with fat?
No, not necessarily. Fat is also an essential essential component of our diet. Fat is used for building the cell walls. It is used for making our hormones. So it is an important part of our diet. We don't need to eliminate fat. We need to eat less amount of fat. It should not make more than 20% of our diet.
Well, that's a great guideline. I appreciate you clearing that up because it was kind of haunting me from earlier in the show.
Dr. Grewal, everywhere you go, you see people drinking diet sodas and such. What's your position on artificial sweeteners, and are they better for weight loss?
Great question, but I do look into a lot of research before I say anything. So again, there's a research story on that. When they did research on people who drink one diet soda or more a day, they found out that their brains rewired themselves and increase craving for junk food, solid food. Why that happens is because when we drink diet drinks, we are trying to fool our brain into thinking that it is getting real sugar. And after a few weeks, our brain catches on because it's a smart brain. So what it does, it shifts the craving to junk food. So most people who drink a diet drink every day have high craving for junk food. And when my patients come in with high craving for junk food and then they ask how to solve it, I always tell them they need to stop their artificial sweetener, they need to stop their diet drinks, then only their cravings for junk food is going to go away. It's not a question of willpower.
That's very interesting. Tell us about the difference between temporary weight loss and permanent weight loss. Obviously, that seems fairly obvious, but why is this so important? Because I know in my own life, I've kind of yo-yoed back and forth as I've struggled with my weight in my later years, and tend to go up and down. How do we control that?
What we know is that weight loss industry does not want people to succeed in losing weight. And I firmly believe that, and the reason for that is there is a self-interest in making people go on your diet and, generating more revenue. Most diets, let me put it this way, most diets are not geared for you to lose weight forever. Most diets are geared for you to lose weight in the short term. For example, the low-carb diet, or you could take, any kind of restrictive diet. What these diets are doing to us is they make us lose a lot of weight in the beginning, so we start believing in them. But they are so unrealistic diets that we cannot stick to it. And if we cannot stick to a diet, we are not going to keep that weight off. And temporary weight loss, which is weight loss when you lose weight for a few months and then gain it all back, is not true weight loss. A weight loss has to be able to be sustained. So whenever somebody needs to look into a diet, I always recommend them to look for 3 things before you start a diet. Number 1, it has to be easy to do. Because if a diet is not easy to do, you're not going to lose weight because you're not going to stick to it. So it would be a temporary weight loss. Number 2, it has to allow natural food which you are used to eating. When you go away from the usual diet that you eat every day, you cannot stick to that diet for long, and the weight loss is going to stop at some point, and you're going to go back to your original foods. So, number 3, the diet should allow you to adopt healthy eating habits. So if you haven't learned anything while being on the diet, it hasn't changed your eating behavior, it would be very difficult for anyone to keep that weight loss for a long time.
Dr. Sandeep Grewal joins us today. Dr. Grewal is author of 3 books, one of which is Fat Me Not. It's the weight loss diet of the future, ready for you today. He's explaining to us how to teach our bodies to regulate themselves, and it's so fascinating. If you missed the show, I'd really encourage you to catch the podcast later on the Accelerated Wealth website. Why would a money show, why would a retirement planning show be talking about weight control, weight loss, healthy living? Well, here's why. At the bottom, your life in retirement, the whole life really is about more than just money. It's about your health and your wealth and your freedom to live life your way. And the fact is, if you lose your health, you're probably going to lose your wealth. If you lose your health and your wealth, your freedom is out the window. Somebody's going to be telling you where you sleep, what's for dinner, and when it's your turn to take a shower, and that's no way to go into retirement. So we believe at Accelerated Wealth that it's important to discuss these things too, and we're so honored to have Dr. Sandeep Grewal on with us today. Doug, back to you.
Dr. Grewal, talk to us a little bit more, if you would, about how to turn on that switch in our body to self-regulate our weight. How do we do that?
So one thing we got to realize is when we want to switch on the switch to regulate our own weight is that we do need to change. Weight loss is not a 3-month thing or a 2-month thing. It is a thing that you do for a lifetime. So it's a lifestyle change. There are a lot of misinformation in the market, and we need to understand that there are many common sense things that we already know. They already are proven by research to work, so we have to do it. To change that switch, to switch it on, that our weight starts regulating itself, we need to target to get good bacteria in our stomach. How do we do that? We got to eat a high-protein diet and a high-fiber diet in a portion-controlled, balanced way with no restriction of any food item. There has to be a portion control in the right way. And that would switch on our skinny switch, and that would help us keep the weight off. Because once we are on that path, it becomes automatic. We got good bacteria in our stomach, which triggers us to crave good foods. When we eat good foods, we stay healthy.
Well, thank you. Let's go a little deeper on one piece of what you said. You said portion control in the right way. Talk to us a little bit more about what that looks like.
Yes, so that's very important. So portion control, we know for now, is the best way to lose weight, even though it is very commonly said, and we always try to look for more complicated solutions, but portion control is the best way to lose weight, and that's what we based our Slim Plate system on, which is a portion control weight loss diet system. So what you have to do is you have to make sure that you are eating carbs, you're eating vegetables, and you're eating proteins in the right way. For people to get a simple estimate, I always tell them that a best portion control is you eat carbs in the size of their palm. To eat proteins, it should be the size of their fingers, and rest all should be vegetable in their diet. Always try to use a smaller plate, not a bigger plate. That's very important. And 15 minutes before food, drink water to curb your appetite.
All excellent advice. So glad that we've had you on today. Now, how can someone get a copy of Fat Me Not?
The Fat Me Not book is available on our website, www.fatmenotbook.com. It is also available on Amazon, major book retailers like barnesandnobles.com and booksamillions.com. It's also available for e-readers on Kindle and most other e-reading platforms.
Finally, something sensible, a scientific approach to getting your body to self-regulate your weight. Thank you so much, Dr. Grewal. We look forward to having you back again in the near future.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. Now, coming up right after this break, what went wrong with 401ks? We're at the 40-year anniversary almost, and they seem to be a crashing failure, and the 4 risks of retirement. That's all coming right up on Accelerated Wealth with Chris Abeyta and Doug Berkey, right here on AM 740 KVOR.
Let's go back to Doug Berkey and Chris Abeyta for more about your financial future with Accelerated Wealth.
AM 740 KVOR. This is Accelerated Wealth with Chris Abeyta and Doug Berkey, where you get retirement confidence in an uncertain world. Chris is out this week. I'm Mickey O'Neill sitting in, and with me in studio, as always, Doug Berkey. Doug?
Glad to have you with us, Maggie.
Well, it's good to be here. Now, here's the question for you, my dear listener. Do you have a 401k? The next question is, was that a mistake? Here's why I ask. A CNBC article by John Morgan recently leads with the headline, "The verdict is in, and America's 401k accounts are a crashing failure." A crashing failure. Doug, what in the world is that about?
Well, what's pretty amazing in this article, Mickey, is the Employment Benefit Research Institute, which is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization, says that the median amount that Americans have in their 401k account is $18,433, which is just astounding when you think about it, to have such a small account. And almost 40% of workers have less than $10,000 in those accounts. So obviously that's not going to prepare somebody for retirement. And when 401ks were initially created about 40 years ago, they were designed to be a supplement to your defined benefit plan so that it was going to help you add money to your retirement account, not to be your total retirement account. But what happened is, as these accounts became more popular, corporations dropped their defined benefit plan, which guaranteed you an income for life, and turned that responsibility over to you, the employee, for you to have the discipline to put money away, and then also to have the ability to make choices between all the different funds that are in your 401k plan. And clearly, 401ks have not yet brought one entire generation through retirement. And based on these numbers, folks aren't going to have enough in most cases to be able to retire well.
Well, but let's be fair here, okay? The fact that the median amount in 401ks is $18,000 and change, and that almost 40% have less than $10,000, is that the 401k's fault? It's like blaming the car for only driving 40 miles an hour on the highway. It's up to the employee to put stuff in there, right?
It is, but if you balance that with the way they were used to having a pension plan prior to that, the company put aside money in a defined benefit plan that they were guaranteed X number of dollars based on their years of service, and they didn't have to worry about it. The other factor that dramatically affects account values is we've seen two major market corrections in both 2001 and 2002, and then again in 2008, that has devastated a lot of folks' accounts. And instead of staying in the market and continuing to dollar cost average through those downturns, an awful lot of people have just given up on the system and stopped contributing to the level that they need to.
And so also psychologically on the front end, after being educated for generations to believe in the power of the pension, once this was introduced as a little supplement, this would be a nice add-on, there was kind of a disincentive to even participate at first.
Yeah, no doubt. And people didn't necessarily understand it immediately. And some of our listeners out there have done a magnificent job of saving and accumulating wealth, but clearly that's not the large portion of the people.
Right. And I think it's important to define the difference. We toss around these terms here, defined contribution versus defined benefit. Why don't you throw some light on that for us?
Well, a defined contribution plan is something where you choose the level of contribution. So you define how much you want to contribute to that plan. A defined benefit plan, on the other side, says for each year of service that you have with our company, you're going to get X number of dollars in retirement that will last no matter how long you live.
Kind of like Social Security.
Kind of like Social Security, which, is something that most people are kind of excited about, having that Social Security piece. And those folks that are still covered by a defined benefit plan are pretty excited about it, too, because they don't have to experience the volatility of the market.
Well, it's always exciting to know that you've got money that you cannot outlive. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to Accelerated Wealth with Chris Abeyta and Doug Berkey, where you get retirement confidence in an uncertain world. I'm Mickey O'Neill sitting in for Chris Abeyta. Doug Berkey is with me, and we really are talking right now about retirement confidence in an uncertain world. Has your 401k let you down? And by the way, even if the news is very good for you, there may still be some potential letdowns. We talked about this earlier today, Doug. Even if people have a big fat 401k, there may still be a couple of surprises for them.
Well, and no doubt, Mickey, we're seeing the market at all-time highs, and of course, we believe that could change. You have to position your money so that you can protect yourself from this downside risk, especially if you are close to retirement. And unfortunately, as we've seen in these last two major market corrections, or crashes, whatever you care to call them,
yeah, it's a correction when it's my money. It's a crash when it's yours.
Yeah, exactly. So the downside there is people can lose their wealth so much faster than they can accumulate it. So in many cases, it's taken people 30 and 40 years to accumulate significant amounts in their portfolio. And yet in 90 to 120 days, we've seen the market lose 40 and 50% of its value. So you really have to take some precautions and make some wise choices as you get closer to retirement.
And your choices start to open up when you get closer to retirement, don't they?
They do. If you happen to be over 59 and a half and you're in a 401k plan, you have something called an in-service withdrawal, where you can withdraw money from your 401k plan and reposition it to get it out of harm's way and to create your own private pension with that, Mickey. So you essentially take it from a 401k plan into a defined benefit plan where you can know what your income is going to be when you retire and what it'll be 10 years into retirement, 20 years into retirement, or 30 years into retirement.
Is that the kind of thing, too, where I could include my wife?
Absolutely. We would set that up so that money would go to either spouse, no matter how long either of them live, so that neither of you can outlive that money.
Well, my wife and I always look at each other and say, well, I'm going to miss you. But I think it is a fairly good bet that I'm probably going to go on to my reward before she does, various reasons. And it's normal in the population.
It is.
So, guys, if you're looking at your 401k and you're pretty happy with how you've done, you've got it big and fat and ready to go, we really want you to understand that there's some sort of trap doors that are going to knock some of the legs out from under these things. One, potential market correction. Number two, there's something else that you won't really be able to control. We'll talk about here in a second. But the point is, let's not leave Mrs. Successful impoverished by just trying to take little dips out of a bucket of money. If you make a plan, you can make that money permanent. Now, Doug, the other thing knocking the legs out, the other trap door that's going to disappoint, I'm afraid, a lot of people, and this is speculation on my part, this is not gospel, I think taxes are going to go up, and I think they're going to be an incredibly infuriating feature. In fact, the woman who wrote the article, or not, she didn't write the article, but she was quoted in the article, Teresa Garladucci or something, I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that 100% right. She's already suggested that with these great shortfalls, the federal government ought to step in. And what does that mean for people who have done very well with their 401ks?
Well, you have to look at, is the government going to try to attach some portion or define what is wealthy? And if you have more than somebody else, maybe they go after that money. She's actually made the suggestion, because she seems to have the ear of the administration, that you would have one pooled nationwide 401k plan that would control be given over to the Social Security Administration. And I can't imagine a worse possible scenario for our possible future when it comes to money, because they've done such a magnificent job currently managing the Social Security Trust Fund.
So wait a minute. Let me make sure I understand what you're saying. This woman, Teresa Garladucci, or Gillard, whatever it is, who said, by the way, and here's a quote, in America, when we had disability and defined benefit plans, you actually had an equality of retirement period. Equality of retirement period. Now the rich can retire and workers have to work until they die. Well, it sounds like she's targeting the rich, and what her idea is, and is it getting some traction?
It is.
It's getting some traction. Imagine taking your 401k, my 401k, Billy Bob's 401k, and Mary Sue's. Everybody gets all lumped into one big pie, and then the government is the only one that gets to slice up the pie and divvy it up. Gee, that sounds fair, Doug.
Yeah, it's a scary proposition.
Well, what do? We got to have some action points here.
There are some choices that you can make. I would say that if you are younger, you're under that 59.5 threshold, you probably want to max out your contribution into your 401k plan, because generally speaking, you need to be saving as much as you possibly can. There are pretty high thresholds on that. Typically, they're about $23,000 a year. At minimum, you want to be making maximum contributions that take advantage of any company match. So if the company's matching any contribution, you want to make sure you're taking advantage of that match, because that's free money.
What if I'm not young? We're getting close to the end of the segment here.
If you're over 59.5, you need to be looking at taking control of your money, moving it out of harm's way, doing an in-service withdrawal. And we do this every day. We can make a call with you to your present administrator and assist you in that process of rolling it over into an IRA so there's no tax implications. Rolling it over with no tax implications. Call Doug, call Chris at Accelerated Wealth, 466-5634. Listen, if you are over 59.5 and you have this option, wouldn't you at least want to know what that option would look like if you did it right? If you did it right. 466-5634. Got to run to a break. This is Accelerated Wealth, AM 740 KVOR.
When it comes to retirement, generating income off of our assets is a necessity for most of us. Social Security doesn't cover everything. We all need stable income in our retirement years. At Accelerated Wealth, it's our goal to educate our clients with a comprehensive and detailed plan that safely helps you retire stress-free. How do you find the peace of mind of a stable income in your retirement years? You worked hard for your life savings, and now it's time for your money to work hard for you. Chris Abeyta and Doug Berkey have helped others just like you, protecting your wealth by defending your portfolio against higher taxes, rising healthcare costs, inflation, and market volatility. Please call today for a personal consultation. The number is 719-466-5634. That's 719-466-5634. Don't put yourself in the market desperate for a return on your money. There is a better way. Call today, 719-466-5634. That's 719-466-5634.
Hi, this is David Mayer, CEO of Soter Healthcare, and you're listening to Accelerated Wealth with Chris Abeyta and Doug Berkey on AM 740 KVOR.
Let's go back to Doug Berkey and Chris Abeyta for more about your financial future with Accelerated Wealth.
AM 740 KVOR. This is Accelerated Wealth with Chris Abeyta and Doug Berkey. Mickey O'Neill here sitting in for Chris. Remember, send us your questions at money right here at the station, money@kvor.com, or call the office 466-5634. We're just about to get into our 4 risks of retirement. Doug Berkey has some great information teed up for that. But talking about that 401k situation, Doug, I know you've got Social Security trainings coming up, or seminars or classes or workshops or whatever you call them. And when is that? The
7th and the 14th of April. We have,
or is it the 15th?
15th.
7th and 15th.
Thank you.
I remember that. That's an important day, the 15th on the calendar. And the thing is, you're not just talking about Social Security, although Doug's track record as one of 2 people certified by the Social Security Association here in the state of Colorado is pretty good. How does that go, Doug? You've never gotten less than $10,000 more, and often more than 100, and sometimes over $200,000 more in money that people are entitled to. They're not stealing from the Social Security Administration.
That's right. I mean, for a married couple, there are 1,100 strategies, different strategies that you could employ to maximize your payout in retirement. And the Social Security Administration says 94% of Americans don't employ any of them.
Well, I guess that's why 10,999 of the, or whatever it is, 10,099 of the 1,100 are not the best one for you. So that's not a lot of dice I want to roll. And another important feature here is it's not just about Social Security. We just talked about 401ks, the tax implications. How you take your Social Security has an impact on every other moving part of your retirement, whether you have a pension, no pension, 401ks, IRAs, 503bs, anything like that. They're all impacted by what you do with Social Security, and Social Security is the place to start. It's the constant. It's north on the compass, and Doug Berkey is going to teach you how to do it right, and that's coming up on the 7th and the 15th?
Of April, yes.
How do
indeed.
people get in there? What do they do?
They can just call the office at 466-5634 and reserve a spot. These are dinner seminars, so we need to know how many people are coming. And that's our gift to you. And hopefully you see in that seminar that this is not a do-it-yourself project. There's so many ways that you can maximize the benefits that you already have coming. You've paid into this system your entire life. Let's take full advantage of it and use the strategies that are available.
If you try it as a do-it-yourself, you'll probably end up like a lot of my home-based do-it-myself. I end up doing it to myself. I end up with all kinds of extra stuff I didn't use, and I broke other stuff. If you're just tuning in, it's Accelerated Wealth. I'm Mickey sitting in for Chris, but Doug Berkey, tried and true, is with us all the way. And we're talking today about the 4 risks of retirement. Let me just name them real quick, Doug, and then why don't you expand on them? Number 1 is market crash risk, which I think we agreed was a market correction. If it's your money, it's a crash if it's mine. Then withdrawal rate risk, number 2. Number 3 is sequence of return risk. That may take a little explaining. And number 4 is a mystery to me, compounding inflation. I'm used to compound interest, but let's go back here to market crash risk. Do we know what the risk is?
Well, we know that in all probability, we've been told our entire lives that what goes up usually comes down at some point. And the fundamentals for the height of the market today seem to be driven by the money that the Federal Reserve has pumped into the system. They've added $4 trillion of liquidity over the last few years between quantitative easing 1, 2, and 3. And so the likelihood that we will see another market crash or correction, whatever you choose to call it, seem to be extremely high. And if you're close to retirement, you need to manage that risk. There are so many things in our lives, Mickey, that are out of our control. Managing risk in our portfolio is something we actually do have control of. So why not take advantage of those options? So there's a couple specific ways of how we can do that. One is you can create your own private pension plan by rolling your money into an IRA and using a tool, something like, for example, a fixed indexed annuity. We have a guaranteed upside and minimize any downside risk. And so you have predictability of income, because when we're young, we're focused on return on investment. But when we're older and in retirement, we want reliability of income. Totally different.
And so one of these is kind of like Social Security, kind of like a company pension, where you can go along. And do they have COLAs, kind of like Social Security?
They do. And in fact, these accounts are designed specifically to be able to go up over a period of time. Historically, if we look at the averages from 65 to 90, which seems to be about life expectancy these days, they typically go up somewhere between 2 and 3 times, Mickey, as far as total income payout.
Which they kind of need to because of inflation.
Absolutely. Then the other way to manage this market risk is to use a managed account as opposed to the present, structure of your dollars, so that you minimize the downside risk. So going in, what is the most that you're exposing to the market? We all want maximum growth on our money, but we also should wisely, as we get close to retirement, manage that downside so we're not digging out of a hole.
And you said managed account. I want to make sure that we toss out there that this is not advice to you right now. You can't run out and say, I want to get a fixed indexed annuity, I want to get a managed account, and take that as financial advice. Real advice comes with a meeting. A meeting comes with an email to money@kvor.com or a phone call to 466-5634. I love how that rolls off the tongue, 466-5634. Give a call to the offices of Accelerated Wealth, set up a meeting with Chris and or Doug, both, either, whatever suits your fancy, and figure out your options. If you don't figure out your options and things go wrong, you have no one to blame but yourself. More risks. Here we're talking about managing the risks in retirement or eliminating risks in retirement. What is this withdrawal rate risk?
Well, we've historically been told, Mickey, that if we took no more than 4% of our portfolio in retirement out each year and then adjusted that for inflation, that we should be okay. And yet T. Rowe Price did a major study recently, the big mutual fund company, and they said that if you happen to have some down years as you're retiring, which nobody knows what the market's going to do after they retire, the likelihood that you will run out of money in the next 3 decades, so 30 years, is over 71%.
Not good odds.
Not good odds.
That's not a good plan.
No. So you have to either use something less than 4%, or you have to use a product that guarantees a higher percentage rate payout.
Or maybe some combination.
Or some combination. That's right.
And that would be a designed income plan?
It would. We would design an income plan for you and allocate a percentage of your assets in different categories of product services to make sure that you can take out the amount of money in retirement that you need to maintain your lifestyle and make sure that's adjusted for inflation.
Now, Doug, you don't talk like a regular financial advisor. You're saying that, if I'm hearing you right, when you get in or very near retirement, you need to switch from a designed savings plan. It's no longer about how much you're putting into it. You need to know how much is going to come out of it. And that's why you ask hard questions, such as you might ask me if I came into your office. Okay, Mickey, you've got this amount in your 401k. Mickey, how much income is that worth? And I would sit there looking dumbfounded because I don't know how much income that's worth, but you have a way of figuring this out.
We do, and it can be quantified rather simply when you understand the options. And we always say to folks that you can't make great decisions if you don't know what your choices are. And so that's why we encourage you to come and visit with us and let us help you design an income plan so you transition from an accumulation plan into an income plan so you know what your income will be in retirement. If you want to do that, call us at 466-5634. That's 466-5634.
Or you can email the guys right here at the station at money@kvor.com. Easiest email in the world, money@kvor.com. We're running low on time, but do we have time to hit sequence of return risk?
We can. Sequence of return risk is something that's being talked about a lot lately, and basically what it's talking about is if you happen to have 2 down years in the market shortly after you retire, like 2000 and 2001 back to back, it changes the shape of your retirement because you're not only having 2 terrible years in the market, but you're also having to live off that income. So you're reducing your portfolio while the market is down. And so managing sequence of return risk becomes very important. So that's why you have to position your money in something like a fixed annuity and using managed accounts so that in the down years, Mickey, you can take the money from the account that's guaranteed to be up. And then in the good years, you have choices of which place to draw your money. So you increase the probability of always having income no matter how long you live, if not have guaranteed income no matter how long you live.
Boy, managing risk to me sounds like managing pain. I don't want to manage pain. I just want it to be gone. Can I make risk gone? Well, that's not maybe a fair question. That has to be answered in a real meeting. And a real meeting comes with a phone call to 466-5634, 466-5634. I know a lot of guys on the radio make all kinds of wild promises, but you operate at a higher level with fiduciary responsibility, and you can't just promise things on the radio. We're getting awfully close to the end of the show. I want to tee us up for what's coming up next week. Do you think you need to win the lottery to be a happy retiree or work till you're 75 to feel financially secure? Well, Wes Moss, author of You Can Retire Sooner Than You Think, has good news for you. His intensive study of happy retirees reveals the financial practices they hold in common. Join us when Wes shares the secrets for ensuring a happy, successful retirement from his new book, You Can Retire Sooner Than You Think. That's coming up next week on Accelerated Wealth with Chris Abeyta and Doug Berkey, right here on AM 740. And this has been Mickey O'Neill and Doug Berkey. Let's remind them, Doug, Social Security seminars coming up.
April 7th and 15th. And also join us on Monday Mondays with Jim Arthur, Monday morning at 8:10.
Get in on that Social Security seminar, 466-5634. Mickey O'Neill for Chris Abeyta and Doug Berkey and Accelerated Wealth. This is AM 740 KVOR.
The opinions on this radio talk show are those of Mr. Abeyta and Mr. Walton and their guest speakers, not necessarily those of Accelerated Wealth, LLC. The radio talk show may contain forward-looking statements, including but not limited to statements as to future events that involve various risks and uncertainties. Forward-looking statements involve known and unknown risks, uncertainties, and other factors that may cause actual events or results to differ materially than those that were forecast. Therefore, no forecast should be construed as a guarantee. Investing in security and annuities involves a risk of principal loss. Prior to making any investment decision, a listener should consult a professional to determine the risk, benefits, fees associated with a particular investment. Info obtained by a third-party resource is considered reliable, but accuracy cannot be guaranteed.